Welcome everyone to our September Power Hour. I am Tessa Chappell and I live outside Indianapolis, Indiana, and we are here tonight to do two layouts. Meggan Jax will be joining us later in the hour. So hopefully you have your handouts printed. My goal tonight is to see if I got all these measurements right. I double checked it about 3 times, but there's a lot of layering on here. It's a simple layout that I'm going to work through. But I'm anxious to see what you guys make of it. So we will flip down to my table. Right, find my table. There we go. Okay. So my initial goal was to use a frame punch in the layout. And I thought our new pumpkin patch frame punch would be the perfect one to play with. I hadn't used it yet. It is fall. Like I said, I don't have fall photos printed for this layout, but it is definitely a layered design. So if you have a frame punch, hopefully you picked one out, and then we're going to choose some paper. And then I also have an alternative for those of you that you might have the old Wavy square custom cutting system template that came out like back in like 2010, I don't know, way old company, but it is just re-released this week through a jumbo promotion. And so Meggan had got it out for her layout, and I was like, you know what, that is actually a great alternative option for maybe people that have it, don't have a frame punch, or just want to do two. So we'll talk about this after we do the initial layout, and then how you can get kind of a second alternative layout out of it. So choosing paper is often one of the questions people have. How do you choose your paper? For this one, you're choosing a double-sided print. The nice thing about the Autumn Harvest collection, and I pulled out Birthday Bonanza, both of these sets did a really good job of having back-to-back prints that work well together. As we've seen in some paper packs, the two sides don't always play very well together. This is one where you don't have to use the same sheet of paper, but if you do, it works out nicely. So on the what you need for your supplies, it says one double-sided print. And so on the pumpkin layout, that double-sided print was this plaid and this blue. So I had the blue on this side, the plaid on the other. And this collection was really good actually about giving us a print on one side, a tonal on the other. Even this, the orange pumpkin one had a yellow. So they're both kind of tonal, but they could work well together. So you'll want one where you do like both sides and they do complement each other. And then you want to pick out 2 colors of cardstock. We're going to choose one that we're actually going to punch or cut, and the other one is going to frame. And so I ended up using blue, and this is the pumpkin cardstock. I'll try not to say orange, but it is officially pumpkin. And then I needed something to set the print off against it. So I chose the blue cardstock that we had. When I worked with this alternative layout, I chose a beige to cut, but then in the prints that had this fun neutral word print. So you actually can just use paper also for this layer if you have one that you want to use, especially if you're using collections that have a tonal pack. Autumn Harvest just had one paper pack, so I think that's kind of how I got the tonals on one side, the prints on the other. Golden Harvest coordinates well with it too if you need to pull in some tonals for that. So when I was choosing my papers for tonight, I actually thought first about the punch. I went to look at my frame punches and say, what do I have one to play with? The Dollop Arch, I think, is the one that's a little bit forgotten. It's not well used, but I thought, you know what, that actually would be kind of fun with the birthday paper. So I pulled out Birthday Bonanza again. Like I said, this collection did a good job of it. Has a lot of prints, and the back sides are tonal. So I was looking through my options. Of course, they all would look cute, all of them. The backside of this was this blue, the blue, another blue on the back of the confetti, the dark. So if you're using the birthday, you can't go wrong. One of the things that I like to do, whether I'm doing make and takes or classes, is choose the one I like the least in a pack, because I'm going to probably use this for a make and take in my retreat. People, if they see the ugly paper used, a lot of times they like it. This one on top is actually the one I like the least. And so I'm going to use that one tonight. And the back side of it is a green. So I've narrowed down those choices, and I have to pick 2 cardstocks to go with this. I know that the frame of it is going to be green. I'm going to punch. I decided to pull out a yellow. I think this one's actually called Daffodil. And then I'm going to need one to frame my print. So this is Tropical Wave from a past cardstock buffet. So I thought these 3 colors would work well with this kind of grid pattern. So that's a lot of talking, but that's the paper I chose. That's the punch I chose. So our first step is to do the punching. Actually, the first step I put on that, we'll follow the handout, is to cut the frame out. So you're going to grab your 12-inch trimmer. If you're not familiar with this technique, it's one that Meggan made popular. And I need to cut out, the inside is this, it's going to cut out an 8-inch square exactly in the middle. And so if you're using our trimmer, I see the 2-inch mark. There's a white line here on the edge of the trimmer, and I want that to stop at the 2 inches. And so I'm going to put my binder clip on the track so it stops. And then from the bottom, I want to come up 2 inches. So 1, 2. And I'm going to mark that with the binder clip. The one challenging thing with our trimmer is that you can't measure 2 inches on this side. So I want a 2-inch frame. I'm going to have to use my measuring over here. So I'm going to cut my first cut. And so what the binder clips are going to do are give me a stop that I can't go farther than that 2 inches. And then I'm going to work my way around. Sometimes if you don't quite get your cuts all the way, depending on where you put your clips, you can always use your scissors, get your microchips out to give yourself just a little snippet to get it free. Yeah, I think I have a couple. I didn't quite get it all the way to the end. So I have my 8-inch square, and this is going to be the middle when I do my layering. All right, next step, I'm going to do the punching. So if you have a frame punch, they are specifically designed, so they have a line out here on this side, and they have the black line on the front. We're used to the lines on the front. That's for their normal border punches. The frame punches, we start on the edge. And then I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to punch all the way around a 12-inch sheet of cardstock. Yeah, Kelly put in the chat, I agree. The binder clip, I also just move it to keep my housing from moving around when I travel. I don't keep mine in the tools organizer. I usually just stick it upright in my bag. So it is nice to keep that blade from sliding around. The frame punches are nice. You can make any size you want as long as you have even measurements. So this is 12 by 12. I could do 12 by 10. I could do 6 by 8. You can do all the way down to 4 by 4. Dollop arch is a little bit messy, has a lot of those little holes popping out. How many of you guys have this one? I feel like you don't see it as much. It came out a while ago, so we've had it in stock for a while. I was going through the frame punches, and I didn't want to do snowflakes, which is one of the more recent ones. We currently have this one, and we have damask, and of course the pumpkin patch now. I think those are the only 3.
Spiderweb.
Oh, spiderweb. Yeah, I don't think about that one very much because it's not as versatile, and I haven't scrapbooked Halloween since we even got it. We do have Halloween coming up. I don't know that my kids will be dressing up though. I think we're past that stage. Oh, I think I just shifted. I did shift this. I usually stand up to do these. I probably should have. I'm probably going to screw up this corner, but I'm going to go ahead and repunch it. So I'm gonna have to strategically place my mat in that corner. Oh yes, geometric is still available. Cloud frame recently sold out. We do have more options than we used to. Okay, so we have our frame ready to go. If you want to, this is completely optional. If you want to save paper, save the weight in your layout, you can cut another frame out of this like we did here. Or since we are talking about the jumbo, it actually works really nicely. You can cut the center out and you'll have enough space and you'll have this extra. So if you don't need the square edges, if you're okay with the rounded corners on your extra piece, I think this will be my go-to hack now for cutting out the middle and saving the frame option. Didn't quite get that one. Okay, that one's done. So now we need to move on to our additional sheet of cardstock. We need a 9-inch square out of this one, so we just have to make 2 cuts. Take my binder clips off. Measure 9 inches. It gives you 3. So while we won't use the 3 inches on this, 3 is a very nice width for a border base. So if you want to use your scraps up for something, you could pull out a border. If you want to, you can go ahead and cut this as a frame. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the outside of this because I did show one version where the inside of this can be the mats in the middle. I just want to do a 1-inch frame. A little frame happy on this one. It depends on if you want to save the paper, save the weight. I know some people are pretty diehard about conserving. I kind of go both ways. Sometimes it's not worth the effort. Sometimes though, if you're using colors that you can't get anymore, like this tropical wave, it does help to stretch it out a little bit. Oh, I got all this. So I'll go ahead and cut this piece. So on the handout, I noted that you can do a 5x7, kind of a large mat. And this little 2x7, like a little title bar for the extra. So that is all the cutting we have to do. Now we can put together our pieces. So I'll show you how they're going to layer together. They're in the center. Geometric actually would have been a good one with this paper. Kind of gone with that geometric pattern of it. So you can either work from the bottom up or work from the top down. I'm going to go from the top down. I'm going to pull out my old mini tape. I'm still using the old mini tape. You have the mini tape runner. It works well along these edges. Just run it down the sides of it. It is fast and easy to put together. You're right, Karen. The dilemma is always the paper choices. Tape on there. Line this, center that up on top. I want to turn on here. Depending on, so I could have made this one a little bit bigger. So depending on what punch you use, you might have more space. And so if you do want to customize this, if you do want to get as much space as possible, you could keep a ruler. Before I cut down the tropical wave, you can, lay your ruler down here, look at your design, The dollop arch is more on the edge than the pumpkin patch. I could have gotten out a little bit more to even 9.5 and made all of these 1/2 inch bigger if you really are trying to get extra space for photos. Center this one. I have not used my wavy frame very much either because it really was pretty hard to find. And so while Megan and I do not expect it to stay in stock very long, at least it'll be more current. So a lot of you will have it and we can use it as an option of maybe a little bit more in classes because there'll be more out there. So there is that layout all done. So I did mess up my punching down here. I would just embellish over that. It's a little bit low to put mats. And then if you did cut your mats like that, if you had maybe a title page or you had, one favorite photo you were showcasing at the beginning of a series, you could use a 5x7 and you could even double mat a 4x6. You could have a title bar down here also. But I did include one additional picture down in the handout that if you do have other size mats, you can still do layering over. I don't know, this is really too far out, but you can layer. These don't match because they're for the other layout. You could do peekaboo pockets, or you could even get 3 mats on there, or inside here you can cut down like 3.5 inch photos and put them in the middle. So easy option layout for that. So again, if you're using the jumbo frame, similar technique. Peel it back, you can see I cut out the insides of both of them. The frame obviously went up here. I cut out the center of that just to save the space. I have my frame here. I saved that red inside for another layout. And then I have that layer on top. If you do use a jumbo wavy, the nice thing about it is that is right away you get the outside of cutting the jumbo wavy. This is not a piece that is going to store very well. If I've tried to slide it into my my folder sometime, inevitably it will get bent up. But if you go ahead and choose another print, this came out of the Autumn Harvest, and go ahead and tape it down. And then even if you do nothing else with it, you have an extra page in your collection where you can get use out of this wavy outside frame. And then I had this piece left over. So remember when I made the 2 cuts to get this down, this came off one of the ends and it fits in nicely down here. So you could easily get a second layout out of there. And then I have room in here to do, I could almost fit 2 5x7s mats, which would be a nice for 2 peekaboos if they fit. If I didn't have horizontal words there, they could also be a vertical and have it there. So another option with that one. Let's check the chat. Looks like, yeah, some good, yeah, the old tape runner. Yep. So if you need a refresher on the frame, the technique, Megan does have her binder clip video on her YouTube channel that can help you with that. So any other additional questions? I actually got through that pretty fast. I talked at the beginning and gave Megan more time.
Do you want to do just a quick show on the frame punches where that silver line is on the wing?
Yes. So I actually have the pumpkin out here also. So on both of these frames, you have silver on each side. So whether you're left-handed or right-handed or your preference, you can pull out either way. So if you're left-handed and you prefer to pull over here, you can line up your paper and move this way, or you can line it up here and move that way. The reason why you have to start your paper out there is so that you have extra at the end. So when you turn your paper, you're not cutting into your design. If you want to do just a straight border, you use up here because you're going to start punching at the edge of your paper. You have to start out here on the wings. And these are designed to, the frame punches are designed so that you are getting a full design. You can't adapt this to all of some of our regular border punches because it does not hit a full design. And I think these are actually a little bit smaller inside the.
Yeah, the pattern is only 2 inches wide. So they're a little bit narrower. That's why they can turn the corner the way they can. So if you have frame punches and you have may not realize they're frame punches, that silver line in the middle of the pattern is how you'll know it is a frame punch.
We've had petal, baroque, snowflakes, spider webs, dollop arch, geometric, pumpkin patch,
Cloud, spider web.
cloud frame. I keep forgetting, but that's so new. It's not in my memory quite well.
Yeah,
Cloud frame.
there's been quite a few of them.
I need to start storing them together. Learn them all. I would just store them and it's like off to the side or something like that, the frame ones.
The other,
Yeah,
you could also use just like little garage sale dots, maybe give them a certain color or something like that if you wanted to just quickly see them, depending on how you store them.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, I could do it, you forgive that. So let me show you how to do a small one. So this is a 4x6. Actually the pumpkin's cuter. I'll do this one because then I could throw it on a pumpkin layout. Unlock it first will help. Like I said, you can do any measurement that is even on each side. So I can punch twice on that 4 or the 6-inch side. I have to line up over here because I have to give the space because I'm really centering this.
This is it.
I can flip that one.
So this is a.
This is not going to be able to hold a picture, but it would be more of a decorative. The pumpkin patch punches a little bit more firmly. It's trying to punch out all those little pieces in the middle. I think this mat actually, now that I chose the chocolate, I think it was actually a 1/4 inch wider. That's fine. I can just give it a little trim. You'll get the idea. You can have a little embellishment or title bar. And so if you did a 4x4, you're going to get like a 4 square of your design there in the middle. So the frame punches are fun. If you don't have one, we obviously have specific ones like the pumpkin patch or some of the more generic designs that you can use. Any other questions? Okay, we'll see. Practice
Lisa had a quick question about the measurement for the frame inside the frame cut cardstock. You did, yes. You cut it as a 1-inch piece, right? Or where is it on your directions?
Yeah, so if you're cutting out you're using a 9-inch square and then you're cutting out a 7-inch square from the middle, so it's a 1-inch frame. And so you can, instead of up here for the 2-inch frame, you're putting your binder clips. You're setting the white mark either at the 1 or the 2. And if you're cutting a piece shorter than 12 inches, so like that second piece was 9, then I want to back up to 8 for the 1-inch frame. And so I would binder clip at the 8-inch mark. And then I'm going to line my paper up at the outside at the 1 there. And what we will put Meggan's video link in the email that goes out tomorrow to give you guys a refresher on the frame too, those of you that are not familiar with that technique. I made quite the mess here. And so I'm sorry I don't have any photos. It's not going to happen, but I'll post these, my finished one. I might embellish it a little bit and post it in the group for you to see.
All right. Thank you, Tessa. I'm Meggan Jacks out here in Seattle. Getting dark and gloomy here. Fall is definitely set upon us. So I also do not have pictures for mine either, just because I don't. And so I'm trying to get ready to go to Seattle. I'm not very organized, but I do have my pictures ready to ship. Last time I went to see Tessa, I forgot all my photos and had to reprint them all at Walmart. So, all right. So I'm going to flip over here to my camera and show you guys what's going on. Okay, so I'll show you my sample layout. I am using the Wavy frame, as Tessa mentioned. I don't know, I thought it'd be fun to use it. I had just, hopefully if you guys are collectors of the jumbo templates, that you already have it. Maybe you're picking it up this week. Maybe you're waiting to see if they come on sale individually at the end of this week. But this one, I am going to tell you right now, I would encourage you for this layout. I have a couple tips here, and these are tips that I kind of came across as I was working through mine. The first one is the practice on some scratch paper. Partly because we're using we're going to be making the thin border pieces. This is definitely an area where you're going to want to practice. These are the jumbo templates, can sometimes be a little unwieldy as you're holding them around. You want to get comfortable with moving around them, leaving them in place to make that second cut. So that's definitely something you're going to want to keep in, to practice. So don't use your pretty paper right away. Try with even just one of those, the cover sheets that come with the paper packs. The other thing here is I had to replace my blades. I had my old ones, they had the old Creative Memories logo on them, so you could tell they were definitely old. I was struggling to be able to turn all of these curves. I was catching the blade. And so if you are having issues, you might need to, especially if you have old ones, consider getting some new ones. That's just another little tip there. And the other tip I wanted to tell you guys about was I will be using some repo adhesive to secure the paper that I'm cutting to my cutting mat. So that you're going to see me do that in here. So my layout uses, you need a background paper. I use the Totally Tonal pink for this, the soft pink. And then you want to have, and that could be a tonal paper, it could be cardstock. You want something back here that you're going to make sure that whatever you use as the paper you cut, and then we do some folding on, that you'll be able to see. Now, the great part about that is you can actually play around with it a little bit. If you are very positive on what color, what page you want to cut and fold, you'll then be able to take that piece and try it out with some different pieces of background paper. All right. That's what I did actually with this pink. The challenge I ran into is had this mid-tone with the white. So I did need one of the darker pinks. But I also thought, well, maybe I could just use some cardstock. I had some raspberry cardstock, and I ended up just going with one of the tonal pieces. So for today's example, I am going to be using some papers out of the Shades of the Season. This was from the Polar Lights Shades of the Season. Love this pack. Got the stripes on one side. It has kind of, I think of like the rocks on the back side. This is actually going to be the page that I'm going to cut with the Wavy cutter or the Wavy frame. This I'm pretty certain is going to be my background piece. I like that it has just a little bit of fleck of that tealish color in there, but still has that dark blue background. I think that's going to look nice. I'll have a little bit of this this paper, the stripes coming through, and then I'll fold it so that you can see the rocks will be kind of where this inside component right there. That will be where we see it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm pretty certain I forgot to grab, I'm going to use, I think, circle chain for my border element. So you'll want to have two border elements that will come down the middle there. Okay, so I'm going to set aside my background piece of paper. I don't need it right now. I am going to secure my paper to the my cutting mat. So I'm going to secure it. Just a little bit of adhesive there. And I'm going to take the time to make sure I line it up really well on my 13 by 13 mat. Now, I do talk about here, I guess before we even get started, I talk about how you need to find the center of your wavy square. Let me really quick grab I need a piece of paper so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I'm just going to slide some white cardstock in here so I can show you guys a little bit easier. There is no center manufacturing dot in here. They're actually off to the side, right? There is nothing that is in the middle. But Creative Memories does have a manufacturing dot in each one of the corners on the outside track. So what you can do is use a thin tip Sharpie. I was actually able just to take our marker, our fine tip journaling pen, and just do a little right on top of that little manufacturing dot in each one of the corners. Then I'm able to come back to my cutting mat. Here's another cutting mat that I have. And those dots that I made, I line them up on my 45-degree lines so that all 4 of the dots are coming across those 45-degree angles. And make sure you get them lined up just in the right spot. And then what you can do is you can come in with your Sharpie. And I don't know where my Sharpie ran off to. My cat comes in here and I think she likes to knock stuff off my table. I now get to blame everything on my cat, right? That's she's now the new scapegoat. You'll come in with your Sharpie and you'll go ahead and just mark where it hits at the 6-inch line all the way around. That is going to tell you then when you go to position this on your, I can line this up at 6 inches. And then I know I have my wavy frame nice and centered. And it is easier if I can look directly down from the top. I'm doing the best I can here to line it up. It doesn't have to be perfect for this particular application because we will be removing the outside. That's not what we're using for this piece. But if you are wanting to make Tessa's example where we still have that outer piece we use for another layout, having it nice and centered will be definitely very, very helpful. Okay. Now, before we actually get going here, I do want us to use a pencil and a ruler. I'm just going to use a ruler. You could use it. I could use my T-square, but I'm going to use my ruler. And we are going to mark some pencil lines here. It's probably going to be difficult for you to see on my particular piece of paper here, but you're going to use a light pencil mark, and we're going to come to 1/2 inch on either side of the 6-inch line. So I'll be doing a pencil mark at 5.5 inches and another one at 6.5 inches. And we're going to do those going in both directions. You should end up with the squares as I show them here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and draw those. Just a light pencil mark. You are going to have to come back in later and erase it. Unfortunately, I'm using this striped paper, which means it's going to be really hard for me to see, but I'll do my best. I can kind of see them. And I'll go ahead and do the same going horizontally. This one I should be able to see. Yep, I can see this one better because it's going not parallel, it's going perpendicular to my pattern. Okay. These pencil marks are just to help us as we're cutting. We're going to, we'll do our first cut all the way around with the blue blade. So I got my blue blade. I'm going to come over here, put my piece on here, or my template back on, line it up. Now, the first cut I'm going to do, I'm going to use the blue blade all the way around, and it was be able to do that. So, there is yeah, I do see somebody commenting. There is actually a mark here in the middle. You guys can see that. That would probably also be really good. So that's pretty awesome. I didn't even pick up on that. So thank you, April, for recognizing that it's there. My marks are pretty on. I don't think I've ever noticed that on the other ones. I don't know why the frame, we'll have to see if the new one has that same marking. Okay, I'm gonna put this back on here. Okay. Blue all the way around. Now, here's the big thing. You definitely want to take your time doing this, and you've got to watch your pressure as you're moving from side to side. I did find it a little easier than because of all of the wavy movements, I did feel it was a little more tendency for my frame to want to shift. So definitely take your time. There are some rubberized pieces down in here that are help keep things like from skidding, from moving, right? So if you are putting your pressure on your template to keep it in place, I see like the little silicone pads on there. That's where I'm going to put my pressure. I'm going to put here in the corner. There's one here in the middle. That's where I kind of want to put my fingers because I am actually pushing down on those pressure points that have that bit to help it from sliding. If I put my fingers in other places, like here, it's a little bit easier for me to move. If I put them just on the silicone bits, it's almost impossible for me to move it. So keep that in mind when you're putting your pressure on. You'll see those little oval silicone dot places. That's where you want to put your fingers for the pressure. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Take your time. Make sure you get your it all lined up in the track, and then you're going to start cutting all the way around. The goal is to not move we want to try really, really hard not to let our template move. This is where having a good blade is really helpful. Don't go fast, just go as slow as you need to. And of course, hopefully you are practicing. Okay. When you release your hands there, you want to make sure that you don't bump your template. We want our template to stay in the same spot. I'm going to go ahead and lift out my blue. I'm not worried about this outside edge. If I have places that did not release, I can come in with my scissors and I'll cut those out. We do not want our template to move. Now I'm going to grab my red blade. This is where you need to be keeping track of where your pencil lines are. But I can kind of just know my pencil lines are 1/2 inch on either side of the 6-inch mark. So I just can know if you are able to remove your paper, you can. If it doesn't come away, don't worry about it. You'll bring it later. I had a good cut. I'm able to pull it away completely. If you cannot, because you need to use scissors, you do not want to disrupt your template. So now my goal is I want to come in and I want to start my red blade at where my pencil line is. And I want to cut from pencil line to pencil line in each corner. That pencil line, remember, is at about that 5.5 and 6.5. So if you can't see your pencil line, you could certainly just come to that, the mark on your cutting mat. So I'm going to start up here at the top. And if you need to, you can kind of start off to the side and work your way back that direction. And normally I'd get my head clear over there so I could see. There we go. And again, you want to just try really, really hard not to let your template move. Go slow. If you feel places where it doesn't cut well, you can kind of slide backwards, see if you can grab that cut. But if it doesn't, don't worry about it. And again, I'm coming around this corner. I'm getting close to that 5.5 inch mark. And so I just am going to kind of ease into it. And there I can say I went a little past, and that's okay. Those pencil lines are actually going to come in handy when we do our fold. So even if you use your outside marks to do your cutting here, you're going to want those pencil marks when we do our fold. So come in here. There we go. Keep working all the way around. There we go. I have 2 more to do. These ones that are closer to me are a little bit easier because I can see directly where my blade starts. And I will tell you guys, it took me, I think I messed up 2 pieces of paper. All right. Before I said, yep, I've got this down. Part of it was because my blade was bad. My blade was not happy making these curves. And the second I switched over to a new blade, it was so much better. Slide this a little closer. We have a little bit more to go there. Okay. All right. So now, moment of truth here. Yeah, those are released. I'm gonna come over here and see if this is released. Yep, I'm good. I don't need to use my scissors. And this side also is good. Okay. Now, when you fold, you want to find where your pencil lines are. And we want this outer edge here to meet our pencil lines. And you want it to meet on both sides. So here's my pencil line meeting here. And now I need to meet it here. And it should line up. If it's not perfect, that's okay too. You can also come in here and I can find my 5.5 inch line and I see my 5.5 inch line. And I'm just trying my best. Really easy for me to see that. Like this one's lining up really well. This one's also going to line up well, or fairly well. We'll fold these pieces. And once you do, I mean, after we do this fold, really the hard part of the layout is done. The rest of it is just decor. All right. So now I'm going to pull this up and it does have a little bit of that adhesive on the back side. I want to kind of rub that off of my cutting mat. I do want to rub that off the back side of my paper here too, because especially if I'm not 100% certain that I'm going to use it with this particular piece of designer paper, I don't want to put it on there and then have it lift the pattern. So here's how it looks. Okay. So I have to make the decision, do I like this configuration? And I do. I like this configuration. So what I'm going to do is I will go ahead and adhere it into place. And now here's my tip to you. All right. I am going to use some just regular adhesive and I am putting it on the big part of the back here. I'm going to make sure that my background piece is put into place, and then I am going to set my frame into place. You still maybe have those pencil lines that you can see. You can line those up with the 6.5 and the 5.5, all those markings that you have. Let those guide you to where you can put those in. I'll erase those pencil lines later. All right, so now it's in place. I'm going to go ahead and adhere my flaps down, just so they're out of my way. And I still have, I know they're flopping around, those skinny bits. Now, here is what I'm going to do. My little silicone mat, maybe you have the big silicone mat, maybe you have a sticker sheet, a piece of wax paper, you have another piece of paper, anything that you have to protect this back piece. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to carefully lift up my pieces, and I'm going to come in with my repo adhesive, and I'm going to apply it on there. Now I'm going to just carefully let it naturally just kind of fall back down. It can be a little temperamental. Just want to push it back into place. Do the same thing over here. You could use a precision point pen for this as well, but the repo honestly just works so good. Maybe the mini tape runner, if you have that, that would also work in here. I have a question coming across, and it's just asking if this whole video will be on YouTube. Yes, Tessa and I will always, we always get our classes recorded. We always put them on, this one will go on public YouTube. So you will be able to watch it. I'll probably have it uploaded later. That's my, Tessa sends out the email. I'm the one who uploads it to YouTube. I typically have that done in the evening after class. I'm going to sit down after this, watch the Diamondback game that is probably almost over with. They are East Coast playing the Mets. Okay, so there's those. I do need to come in with my eraser, gently erase the pencil lines. I'll take care of all that. The other thing we want to do here is if we want to have some added detail, I was going to use, I was planning to use circle chain, because I thought it would just be nice. That since I'm going vertical and horizontal, I wanted a chain that didn't really have a direction to it, just because then nothing's laying on its side or upright. Another one that would have been good here, actually, I probably should come in with, should have considered something like, if I wanted to stick with the whole polar concept, I should have gone maybe with snowflake circle chain. Is that what it's called, Tessa? Snowflake circle chain? What?
Yes.
Okay. I can see that she's not really paying attention. So that's when it's my turn to like ask her a question to see if she's really like hanging in there with us.
I'm trying real hard to pick out embellishments for my layout.
I know. I told her that was, so we did something, we had our beginner class, and I got to go first for the beginner class, and it was great because while she was doing her chat, I was sitting over there actually able to finish my example during class. It was fantastic. I want to start going first all the time now. So the question comes into is, what do I want to use here for my my circle, or the thing is I am going to go ahead and punch navy. I am not sure that I'm going to use navy. This is when we get the handy dandy swatch thing out. I've got, I think, all of my colors. These are not all the colors Creative Memories had. These are all the colors I have in my swatch, or in my all the colors that I have. I've just made swatches. So this is dark sea green. I could come with dark sea green to make my mats. I think I might do that. Let me just actually, this will make it easy. Dark sea green maybe for my mats, and then I can come in with that navy for my circle chain. And the lovely thing about circle chain is you can actually weave some paper in there. And I could come in with that. So I could definitely do I'm gonna do 4. I see a question about asking how many pictures. I would probably do 4 on here. You can adjust that if needed. If you wanted to do 5, you could probably come in with 4 squares and maybe 1 in the middle. You could do circles here if you wanted to, with a circle in the middle. You can honestly, you can adjust this however you need to for this particular, with what you've got, what works for your photos. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I will punch 2 circle chains out of navy, and then I'm going to use dark sea green for my mats. I might yeah, I think I'll plan to do that. So I'm just quickly going to cut the chains so that you guys can see what they look like on here. I still have 3 minutes left.
Are you packed?
You're funny.
You're talking about watching the baseball game. I'm like, I'm pretty sure she probably doesn't have anything packed.
I have mentally packed, but you were also the one that told me that nobody would pay attention if I wore the same thing over and over.
That's true. I don't know. How do you guys, I feel like at crops, you just put in leggings, a couple shirts, you rotate. No one really knows, right? You're sitting the whole time. Just wear the same wrap around. I told her she didn't really need to bring that much.
Well, the question comes into is, the more space that I use to put for clothes is less space I use for cropping items. I did, though, give my hostess, I needed a little bit of help on some items from her stash. That is definitely the good part about scrapbooking with somebody, attending a crop of somebody is well stocked. Because I may not have actually ordered. I thought I had some stuff that I didn't have. I'm just looking through my blue scraps right now to see if there's any colors that I can use. Blue scraps. This is funny. I just noticed this. I had my middle child assort cardstock scraps for me. And it was interesting to see what they consider blue and what I consider blue and what I would have maybe filed under green. But I don't know. That's the maritime or whatever. Like Island Waters, it's kind of, I don't know, I guess more blue. Ooh, I kind of like that color. Ooh, I think I'm going to do that because I think, well, this is, I know what color it is. I just can't think of it. It's Tahitian blue, I'm pretty certain. Anyway, I think I'm going to use, yeah. I am going to cut, there's a small, if you have circle chain, you can actually weave inside of that, and it's just over 1/4 of an inch. Will give me a bit of a weave. I could use a pattern paper here if I wanted to as well. So the tips on taking stuff when you're traveling.
When I go to Meggan's, I take that rolling cart we have most recently had. And
you can get a lot in there.
Yeah. It gets heavy though. So if you do travel with that, at first I took as carry-on. When I came back, I think I checked it. It is expensive, obviously, to check a second bag. But if it's very heavy, full of paper, you cannot lift it into the overhead bin. I was like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, you need to be able, if you plan to carry it on, first of all, you cannot pack the very, very front little pouch. It will not easily fit into the overhead compartment with that in there. The other part is, yes, you want to make sure you can lift it up over your head. There is not going to be nobody's going to take, unless you have a big burly guy with you who's going to take pity on you and help you get it lifted up and then back out. Load it from the back, meaning that put your heavy stuff on the back side of it. That's just a general packing tip for that, so that it doesn't tilt forward. But you can get a lot in there.
Weight. Paper is heavy, just even in your normal suitcase. I'm not sure. Pam, are you flying though? She's probably driving. So yeah, then it's kind of like, how do you choose what to bring? I think both of us choose specific projects.
Yes, I have a vacation project that I am bringing. So I have I have two sets of fast to fab papers that I am taking with me, along with I did pick some cardstock. So my heft is going to be a bunch of cardstock. There's pretty much my layout. I'm going to add some bats up here in the corner, but there you can see with those circle chains in place, that's going to work out really well. And then coming in, the circle mats here would work really well. Bringing in that same circle detail up into the mats if I wanted to. I probably will stick with squares just because it's easier. And I also have a tendency, if I don't have pictures to actually put on here, my mats sometimes just kind of get tossed on there to take a photo to show you guys, and then they just get filed away without actually adhering them in place, because it just gives me more flexibility later when I actually add my photos. So, I would say, in terms of going to a crop like that, when you're trying to consolidate, for me, I have photos. I have two sets of, the Leave Nothing Behind Fast to Fab papers. I am taking a bunch of cardstock that coordinates, and then I have some packs of paper embellished, like the packs that match the whatchamacallit, the good old Leave Nothing Behind Fast to Fab papers, and then mats and embellishments. Mats and embellishments I might be getting from somebody that shall remain nameless, that lives already in Indiana, because I didn't get those ordered in time. But as much as you can power layout, that you can narrow things down. The other thing that's really nice about taking a specific project that is more like theme is that if you do take tools with you, you can pick tools that go specifically with that theme if you need to take a tool. So that can help. Otherwise, take post-it notes and just put notes on. If you don't want to take a bunch of your tools, just put post-it notes. Take the basic tools, the cutting tools, leave your punches at home, and just put notes in place of what you want to use in those for those layouts. Or you can pre-punch the layouts.
I don't usually do that. I don't do any titles or journaling at retreats either. It's just too distracting. And so then I don't have to take ABCs or pens really, or either. I kind of do that at home when I'm in silence.
She might be having to sit next to the person who's probably been drinking and talking a lot. And so when she starts to write, then she just starts writing down the things that are coming out of my mouth. And then it just gets really, really awkward.
I have a hard enough time journaling, period, let alone with distraction.
So I see a quick question about what was the navy blue silicone mat called. That was the border silicone mat that Creative Memories had as a bonus item. I cut off the little piece that allows you to roll it up and keep it rolled up. I really like this size. So that's pretty awesome there. In terms of the trimmer, yes, you can take the trimmer as a carry-on. You can take you can't take your full-size scissor. I wouldn't take any scissors that way.
I've taken scissors. You can get
Oh, have
scissors
you?
through, yeah.
Can you take our regular scissors, or do they have to do the micro tip?
I think mine went through. I think other people traveled with them. It just depends on your level of risks with TSAs. But no, the trimmer blades are fine. Cutting system's fine. They're no different than razors, and you can put razors in your carry-on.
I would say the one thing that you would want to do is, if you are traveling and you are bringing things like your border punches, I have had my bag has been flagged almost every time I've gone through security with my border punches. So just have those maybe in a spot that is going to be easy for them to get them out, or let them know ahead of time there is some punches. They probably will still search your bag, but that's probably the only thing that has been my issue has been, is they have searched my bag because of the punches. The other thing I would tell you is iris boxes fit inside that cart really well. And if you roll your clothing up, the clothing can fit inside an iris container. So right now I'm kind of leaving one compartment potentially open, that I theoretically could put a second iris in there that actually might have some of my rolled up things. Now, ladies, know that they're going to search your bag. So what you put in that iris container, you might want to make sure that other people can see that items. I maybe had undergarments rolled up in there one time, and that they opened that and like, oh, here's all of Megan's stuff.
I've probably seen all of it. But do you remember what caught me when I came last time to you? Remember what security searched me for?
I
The
don't, did you tell?
photos, because
Oh,
they're organic material. And so she didn't believe me. So I literally had like 1,200 photos and all the Walmart packages. She literally pulled them all out. And I was like, if you freaking drop those pictures and get them out of order all over the floor, I'm gonna be so mad at you. But like, why you don't believe me? You know, one package isn't enough to see.
I did get stopped when we were in Minnesota. I had taken a bunch of big business cards with me, and they did that flagged as well too. I had a big, just a big thing of business cards, that just a big block of something. They probably thought it was cocaine. It wasn't. It was just business cards. But they got to check. So
Should probably put the
thank
hashtag. I'll put the hashtag in the comments.
yeah, please, yes, the hashtag if you share the layouts. The hashtag is on the handouts. Because But I know for mine, because I use the Wavy template, you guys may not have yours yet. I'm gonna extend till the end of the month, and I think Tessa, yours too. We're gonna actually give you guys clear till the end of the month to post your layouts from this Power Hour, because we do have a lot of things on here that maybe you're waiting to get your templates in. Creative Memories is getting things shipped. They are definitely pushing that 5 business days. To get things out the door. So please, patience is always fantastic. But you should be getting those. You'll be able to play with them, and we cannot wait to see what you guys create. If you have questions on any of, definitely post those into the ideas and inspiration group, and we'll be happy to answer them. So thanks so much for joining us. We do not have October scheduled yet, do we?
I think
I
I
can't
gave you
remember.
dates, but I think I gave you a date, but I don't know if you're okay with it. We'll look this weekend.
Where
I'll post
we
pictures of Megan and we'll get our calendar out.
Yep, we will. We'll have probably the rest of the fall into the beginning of the year, at least through Christmas planned. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing what you share and all that fun stuff. There will be an email sent out tomorrow that'll have a copy of the recording. You can also check it on Facebook. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. You'll get an email then when we update it with any of the classes that we have for public. So the beginner class and Power Hour are always listed under public, and so you'll get notification when those get added to YouTube. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.